Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. 1883's Dutton prophecy makes even more sense now after the Yellowstone finale. For 5 seasons now, Yellowstone faced down the daunting question of who exactly owned the Dutton Ranch. Yet it was a question to which the show always knew the answer. Ever since the death of Elsa Dutton, Isabel May, in 1883, the family had been living on the Montana land on borrowed time, with the promise that it one day would return to its original people. Following the murder of John Dutton, Kevin Costner, halfway through Yellowstone's final season, the prophecy is fulfilled in every way, giving us an ending that is both inspiring and devastating. The finale's title, Life is a Promise, lives up to its name, bringing the Dutton family full circle in the only way it could. The first time we see Elsa Dutton in 1883 is a flash forward to the moment she was shot, with the rest of the series explaining how we got there. Although her father James, Tim McGraw, leads the family west, Elsa remains the heart and soul of the series from the start, embodying the spirit of the land and creating her own identity, one uniquely expressed through voiceover narration. All of this makes her inevitable demise so tragic, as Elsa slowly succumbs to her arrow wound over the course of a week, and her father promises to settle the family at the burial place of her choosing. After guidance from the local tribes, the pair reach a small valley known only as Paradise, and the people there agree to let them stay out of respect for Elsa, but with conditions. The Crow leader tells James that their people will return to reclaim the land in 7 generations, roughly 140 years later. Love has always been a guiding force on the ranch in all its forms, and James agrees to it without a second thought if that means honoring Elsa, whose posthumous narration continues into 1923 like a ghost. It's a chilling reminder of not only how important she was to the family, but also just how much the Duttons sacrificed to create their new home. Given that Elsa died over a full century before Yellowstone begins, one can forgive the characters in the show for barely mentioning her, and she would hardly be the first Dutton ancestor to be slowly forgotten with time. While they may not remember Elsa's name, the family's history remains important to the Duttons as a source of pride and heritage, one they're not willing to give up so easily. Despite all their financial troubles in the series, the Duttons remain entrenched in the political culture of Montana after so many generations, but finally agree to what Chairman Thomas Rainwater, Gil Birmingham, calls the worst deal since my people first sold Manhattan, so long as the land never becomes developed. We can all argue about whether or not John Dutton won in the end by keeping the land untouched by development, or if the tribes won by reclaiming what was originally theirs, but the actual winner might be the land itself. No matter how much humans have altered it over the centuries, nature still remains eternal, persistent, and unyielding, outlasting anyone who creates a legacy out there. Nobody knew this better than Elsa Dutton, and Isabel May returns to narrate for the Yellowstone finale in an uncredited cameo, becoming a voice so far removed in time that it almost feels as if the West itself is speaking to the viewer. When addressing the closure given to the Dutton family, it's impossible to do so without mentioning the departure of its lead character. The biggest obstacle to taking back the ranch was always John Dutton himself, and it made his demise inevitable even before Kevin Costner left the series. Consequently, the death of the Dutton patriarch creates an opening for the other surviving family members, allowing Kayce, Luke Grimes, to kill 2 birds with 1 stone by outwitting his brother and denying him the land while freeing himself from the burden of inheritance. Just for good measure, Jamie Wiz Bentley meets his end at the hands of his sister, Beth Kelly Riley, finally ending their turbulent relationship once and for all. There is a clear sense of loss with the transfer of the ranch, both familial and historical, but it also provides Beth and Kayce with the sense of individual freedom present in many westerns. In some ways, the end of the Dutton Ranch is certainly a tragedy, since we have already seen in other shows how hard they fought to keep the property in the family. But this conclusion also feels like the inevitable and natural endpoint, one which does not invalidate the trials and tribulations that they have gone through over many generations. Even with such profound feelings of grief and loss, the family arguably remains more free today than they've ever been before, and they can finally leave the ranch behind them. Exactly where they will go is a question that future Dutton stories will no doubt answer. When Taylor Sheridan first introduced the world to Yellowstone, fans knew they were in for a wild ride filled with power struggles, family drama, and stunning Montana landscapes. But as the Yellowstone universe expanded with prequels like 1883 and 1923, it became clear that the saga of the Duttons was far more than just a modern Western. It was a story about destiny, sacrifice, and the burden of carrying a legacy through generations. And now, with the conclusion of Yellowstone, the prophecy foretold in 1883 makes even more sense than ever. The prophecy of the Duttons. In 1883, the foundation of the Yellowstone Ranch was built on pain and loss. Elsa Dutton, the fearless and free-spirited daughter of James and Margaret Dutton, was fatally wounded in a conflict with Lakota warriors. As she lay dying, her father took her to the land that would one day become the most coveted ranch in America. In her final moments, Elsa chose the place of her burial, unknowingly dictating the Duttons' fate for centuries to come. But there was something more chilling about Elsa's final words. She spoke of death and destiny as if she could see into the future, as if she knew that her family's connection to the land would be forged in blood. Her demise wasn't just a tragic end, it was the beginning of a curse, a prophecy that would echo through the generations. The curse in the Dutton line. Throughout Yellowstone, John Dutton IE fought tirelessly to protect his family's land, often at great personal cost. The ranch became a symbol of resilience, but it also came with immense tragedy. His ancestors had sacrificed everything to keep the land, and that same fate seemed to follow him. His wife's death, the struggles with his children, and the constant threats from powerful outsiders all pointed back to the legacy Elsa unintentionally created. One of the most haunting aspects of Elsa's prophecy was the idea that the land would demand blood, and as the series unfolded, the Duttons continued to pay that price. From the brutal deaths of Lee Dutton and other family members to the near-constant peril facing Kayce, Beth, and Jamie, it became clear that no Dutton could escape the ranch's hold without suffering immense loss. The Yellowstone finale, fate fulfilled. With the conclusion of Yellowstone, fans finally saw the prophecy come full circle. As expected, the battle for the ranch reached its climax, and John Dutton IV was forced to make a final stand. In a poetic twist, his fate mirrored that of his ancestors, bound by duty to the land, regardless of the personal toll. Kayce Dutton, who had struggled between his family's violent legacy and his own desire for peace, found himself in the middle of a storm that had been brewing for generations. The vision he had seen in Season 4, where he was forced to choose between two paths, now made perfect sense. The prophecy had been guiding him all along. Meanwhile, Beth Dutton, the fiery and unyielding protector of the family, faced the ultimate reckoning. Her love for Rip Wheeler had been the one constant in her life, but even love couldn't break the cycle of sacrifice. And then there was Jamie, always the outsider, always torn between loyalty and self-preservation. His final choices reflected the inevitable conclusion of the Dutton tragedy. Some were meant to rule, and others were meant to fall. The future of the Duttons. So what does this all mean for the future? With spin-offs like 2024 and 1944 on the horizon, Sheridan has made it clear that the Dutton story isn't over. But if 1883 taught us anything, it's that the prophecy will always loom over the family. The Duttons are bound to the land, but at what cost?